So the in the individual discussion of detecting media bias, I decided to talk about the debt ceiling that the President and the GOP and the House of Representatives are in discussion right now pertaining to the government shutdown. Some interesting things I found when I did an analyzation of both Fox News and CNN were that much of the discussion in the two articles, there was frustration that was being dealt with by the writer for both CNN and Fox News. The seriousness of the writer, it gave attention into the position of both political parties and as well as Americans in general. The Fox News discussion by the writer, it helped Americans understand a little bit of the debt ceiling and why we're in the crisis that we are. And the assumptions that are being shown through CNN, it really wasn't any. The main assumption was coming from the President, the Republicans, and the GOP concerning what is going to happen if this debt ceiling isn't risen. The problem that we're facing is that Obamacare has much to do with the situation at hand. When I started looking at Fox News, I didn't really feel that assumptions were being made. Most of the quotes that were being made were by House Representatives, the GOP, and the President, as well as John Boehner, and they could go through and really discuss their points of view. The way they were quoting things, the way they were talking about the situation at hand, was it clear? Was it accurate? Sufficient in depth? I felt that through CNN, the way the writer was going through describing the situation, there was more of an in-depth article pertaining to what is going to happen to Americans, what is happening to America right now, and why we're in the situation that we are, knowing that we're $16.7 trillion in debt is a heavy load to carry. What is that going to do for Americans' 401k, for our job reliance? As I looked through Fox News, doing a compare and contrast here, there's a majority of technicalities that Americans or a person in general understands in politics. And the way the writer was focusing on basics that help the understanding of what was going on or what is going on makes the story that much easier to read through. And were certain facts reported and other facts ignored? Of course. The discussion of the debt ceiling was a complete focus, but solutions are ignored. There was much draining article in Fox in CNN as well. When you look at both sides, Fox News, CNN, same thing. The main report in Fox News focused on the meeting between Congress and the President to discuss the debt ceiling, but there's no true solutions. They're not discussing how things are going to be taken care of, but the problems, what they're trying to do, but how they're accomplishing it, completely different story. And as far as alternative perspectives and worldviews. In CNN, there's a national poll that is taken pertaining to what Americans think of the president and the Republicans. And I quote, in CNN, it states that 63% of respondents said that they were angry at Republicans for the way they have handled the shutdown, while 57% expressed anger at Democrats and 53% at Obama. So we're getting a majority of viewpoint not only from both political parties, but the side of Americans as well. And, you know, as far as assumptions in the story, you know, it's really hard to say that they're each other's responsibility for what is happening in our nation, and they're wanting to take responsibility for the issues as far as the government shutting down. CNN side basically is showing that. Fox News, there's personal feelings in myself inhibit the idea that the situation stems from the willingness of agreement. There's truly no agreement. No one is willing to come to the table, shake hands, talk about the situation, get it settled, and now we're in a crisis where our government is shut down. It's affecting you know, people of all ages when it comes to everything in general, from Social Security to businesses to you know, even our national parks are being shut down because of this situation. And the implications that were ignored while other areas were emphasized, the reaching of a solution was what is being done to be reached. The discussion is a problem, and finger pointing is in complete focus. There's a lot of finger pointing going on both sides of the parties. Democrats, Republicans are pointing the finger at each other. Basically with CNN, as the writer begins to go more in depth. Fox News, the shutdown, the effect that the shutdown has on Americans, again, the politicians blaming each other, and you know, the emphasis on the debt ceiling and negotiations that are emphasized, going through those negotiations, and you know, what politicians are trying to do to come to an agreement over the debt ceiling. So all in all, I felt through my analyzation of both CNN and Fox News, very comparable, although I did find that CNN was a little more in depth as the writer went in to explain the situation at hand, therefore giving more explanation to how Americans are going to be affected by the debt ceiling not being reached. So that concludes my discussion. Thank you.